viewers, welcome to the Bachelor course of Population Studies. In our last lecture, we discussed about sex ratio at birth and missing girls. Today, we will discuss about the pattern of internal migration. Ever since the earth has witnessed the human life, from the very dawn of mankind, people have been migrating from one place to another. In different stages of economic growth, the structure of migration may have changed, but one thing that never changed was that people generally migrate for a better living. Migration is associated with better employment opportunities, higher earnings, better amenities of life, etc., etc. Economic theory has put forth the idea of economic growth leading to structural change which goes parallel to migration of the people from rural to urban areas. At the micro level, neoclassical migration theory views migrants as individual, rational actors who decide to move on the basis of a cost-benefit calculation. Assuming free choice and full access to information, they are expected to go where they can be the most productive, that is, are able to earn the highest wages. This capacity obviously depends on the specific skills a person possesses and the specific structure of labor markets. Neoclassical migration theory sees rural-urban migration as a constituent part of whole development process by which surplus labor in the rural sector supplies the workforce for the urban industrial economy. Further, Harris and Todaro state that migration from rural to urban areas is function of expected income differentials, that is, the income differential adjusted for the probability of finding an urban job. It is assumed that as long as rural-urban income differences remain high enough to outweigh the risk of becoming unemployed, the lure of relatively higher permanent incomes will continue to attract a steady stream of rural migrants. However, the stance of neoclassical theory that the migration is a rational choice of the individual is challenged by the historical structuralists who state that migration may not have occurred simply because individuals have a free choice, but also because they are fundamentally constrained by structural forces. Rather than a matter of free choice, people are many times forced to move because traditional economic structures have been undermined as a result of their incorporation into the global economic system. Thus, there may be many push and pull factors of migration. The migration also occurs not only from rural to urban areas, but also from one region to another region, from rural to rural areas, from urban to urban areas, and even under some exceptional circumstances from urban to rural areas. All these migration streams are included in the broad category of internal migration. Let us now discuss about the causes of internal migration. Migration is the temporary or permanent move of individuals or groups of people from one geographic location to another for various reasons. There can be a number of socio-economic and political push and pull factors leading to migration of people from their original place of residence to another one. Some of these can be discussed as follows. The first reason may be cited as the growth pockets. The uneven development and marked spatial inequalities can be pull factors attracting the rural populations to the developed areas. This movement to the growth pockets is accentuated by improvements in communication and transport facilities. The growth pockets in any country are characterized by concentration of economic activity and hence is also characterized by greater employment opportunities, higher levels of income, more amenities and strong public infrastructure. All these things attract the persons from rural areas to urban ones or from less developed states to more developed states. Even the slightest difference in rural and urban areas regarding these features are enough to ignite the movement from rural to urban areas, as people always expect the tendencies of improvement in urban lives. The pace of the flow of migration from rural to urban areas further increases if most of the economic activities in the urban areas are labor intensive, as it raises the probability of getting a job, which has important influence upon the migration decision. The second cause can be the inability of the rural areas to absorb incremental growth in labor force. A common feature of the developing economies is that the agriculture alone cannot sustain rural livelihoods. Therefore, the rural areas are always characterized by underemployment or unemployment of the labor force. Low agricultural productivity, growth of rural population, and ever increasing fragmentation of land holdings further aggravates the problem. The rise in agricultural productivity in the areas which have adopted the new agriculture technology has not provided any permanent solution to the problem of underemployment and unemployment in the rural areas. For example, the Shinker argues that in India, the rate of job creation and real wage increases in agriculture have actually slowed down. The causes include worsening land-person ratios, water scarcity, crashing commodity prices after market liberalization, and persistent drought. Nearly two-thirds of the arable area in India is semi-arid and drought-prone, and many of these areas show very high rates of seasonal migration. The third cause can be perceptions about better life in urban areas. Apart from the economic factors, the high-income groups in the rural areas, particularly in the rentier class, migrate to urban centers to get a better social infrastructure, for example, education, health, etc., better amenities, luring urban culture and lifestyle, and even the quest for independence from social, cultural, religious, and familial shackles. The fourth reason is the forced migration. The forced migration includes a migration due to natural disasters, which may be caused by earthquake, drought, floods, cyclones, etc. The social and political problems such as riots, terrorism, political refugee, bad law and order conditions, etc. And the displacement by the development projects. Apart from these factors, there can be several other factors such as marriage, retirement, health problems, acquisition of own house, flat, housing problems, etc., which may also lead to migration of people from rural to urban areas. In India, the main causes of internal migration are classified as employment-related reasons, studies, the forced migration, that is, as we have already discussed, the migration due to natural disasters, social, political problems, or displacement by development projects, and other factors such as marriage, healthcare, retirement, etc. These reasons of rural-urban migration in India are given in this figure. The figure shows that in India, the major reason behind the decisions of the households from rural to urban areas has been employment related. This reason alone causes 66% of total migration decisions. Migration due to studies is another important reason and constitutes about 21% of total migration decisions. Thus, we can say that economic factors are the major drivers of the internal migration. Now let us discuss about the migration rate and its composition in India. Migration rate for any category of persons, say for rural or urban, male or female, has been estimated as a percentage of migrants belonging to each category. The estimated migration rate at the All India level is presented in this figure. The figure shows that the migration rate at the All India level had been nearly stagnant during the period 1983 to 1993. It is only in the post-reform era that the rate of migration started increasing for the country as a whole. This increased from 24.8% in 1993 to 28.5% in 2007-8, but the migration rate among the males increased only marginally from 10.8% to 10.9%, while that of the females increased from 39.6% to 47.2% during the same period. Even though the proportion of the migrant females is higher than that of the males, yet if we go by the reasons of migration, the female migrates mainly due to marriage or due to migration of the family, while the males migrate due to employment reasons. This can also be observed from this figure. The figure shows that in the year 2007-8, about 29% of rural males and 56% of urban males migrate due to employment reasons, while this proportion is less than 1% for rural females and about 3% for urban females. On the other hand, 91% of rural females and about 61% of urban females migrated due to reason of marriage, as against merely 9% for the rural males and 1% for urban females. Even though the reason of migration for the males and females, they differ from each other, but one thing is common, that both of the sexes move from one place to another in the prime of their age. The females when they enter their married life and the males when they enter the labor market. If we follow the age structure of the migration in India, we can find that the peak of migration is experienced between the age group 20 to 24 years. The age structure of migrant population in India can be observed from the next figure. The figure shows that the migration rate is the highest in the age group 20 to 24 years. The comparison of the migration rates between 93-94 and 2007-8 also shows that any increase in the migration rate in 2007-8 had actually been due to increase in migration for the age groups 15 to 19 years, 20 to 24 years and 25 to 29 years, among which again the remarkable increase has been registered in case of age group 20 to 24 years, while the other age groups, that is after the age of 27 years, the migration rates have declined in 2007-8 as compared to 93-94. Now let us have a look at the pattern of migration. The pattern of migration puts forth us a complete picture of migration flows in any country. From the patterns of internal migration, we can find out the areas from where the maximum of human movements take place and what are the main destinations. This information can be further helpful in finding the push and pull factors of the migrant flows and their consequences. Thus, it would be very interesting to look at the migration streams in India. The National Sample Survey Organization of India provides information regarding the location of last place of residence, and on basis of this information, it distributes the migrants in 7 broad categories, specifying whether a person has migrated from rural or urban area, same district or the other district, same state or other state, or from another country. We know that except the last category, all the categories they show the internal migration. Before examining the internal migration, let us have a broad look at the location of the last residence of the migrants in India. These are shown in this figure. The figure shows that nearly 99% of the migrants are internal migrants. It can also be observed that in each category, most of the migrants are from rural areas, and the percentage of migrants from the rural areas of the same state is relatively higher for the females than that of the males. This figure also shows that the migration flows from the rural areas are not only higher from within the same state but also from other states. Thus, the migration from rural areas to any of the destinations mentioned in this figure is the dominant migration stream. Now, for further exploration of the internal migrants, we can examine 4 migration streams, namely rural to rural, rural to urban, urban to rural, and urban to urban. These migration streams for the internal migrants in India are shown in this figure. The figure shows the distribution of internal migrants in India for the year 1999-2000 and 2007-08. During both the years, the dominant migration stream was rural to rural migration. It can be observed from this figure that about 62% of the migrants have moved from rural to urban areas during both the time periods. The second most important migration stream is the rural to urban migration, which shared almost 19% of total internal migrants during the year 1999-2000 and 19.5% in 2007-08. Interestingly, this migration stream has shown a greater proportion of the males as compared to the females, while in case of rural to rural migration stream, the females outnumber the males in percentage terms. Other migration streams such as urban to urban and urban to rural respectively shared about 13% and 6% in both the time periods. For a better understanding of mobility behavior of the population, it is necessary to study various components of migration stream by intra-district, inter-district and interstate movements of population. These patterns of migrants in India can be observed from this figure. The figure shows that in every migration stream, except the urban to urban migration, the intra-district migration dominates, while in case of urban to urban migration, more of the movements take place between different districts. Another important point to note in this figure is that between the period 1999-2000 and 2007-08, both in case of rural to urban migration and urban to urban migration, relatively higher proportion is flowing to other states, and in case of urban to urban migration stream, the flows to other districts have also increased from 43.5% in 1999-2000 to 49.2% in 2007-08. These trends show that over a period of time, the distance of migration is increasing. There is no doubt in the fact that people migrate for their betterment. Most of the families migrate because the earning members of the family want to migrate for better employment opportunities. Migration in this way is also looked upon as a tool of removal of poverty and unemployment. Therefore, it is important to look at the activity status and the occupation of the migrants before and after migration. For this purpose, Let us first have a look at the change in activity status of the migrants. This can be observed from this table. On basis of the activity status, NSSO provides the total population in two broad categories, that is the worker and non-worker, and 5 subcategories, of which 3 falls in the category of workers and 2 in the non-workers. On basis of the activity status, the workers can be classified as self-employed, regular employees and the casual workers, while the non-workers are classified as unemployed and the persons not in the labor force. The table points towards very interesting facts. Firstly, after migration, unemployment falls for both the males and the females, and this falls at a greater rate for the males as compared to the females. Secondly, among the workers, the share of migrants in each type of activity has increased, but the increase in self-employment and regular employment is more than that of casual employment. And if we go into a little deeper analysis, we find that after migration in rural areas, the proportion in casual employment has actually declined, and the increase in proportion of people in casual activity is only due to the increase in proportion of the females in this category in rural areas. Finally, the migration also leads to fewer people in the category of not in labor force. Thus, we can say that migration shifts people from the category of non-workers to workers and from casual employment to relatively better categories, that is self-employment and regular employment. It also significantly increases the participation of women in economic activity. Such types of shifts in activity status also indicate the shifts from agriculture to non-agricultural occupations. All the theories and other empirical works at the country level have indicated that migration and changes in occupational structure, they go hand in hand. After migration, since people move from agriculture to manufacturing, trade and services, therefore the share of self-employment and regular employment increases. Now let us come to the conclusion of this lecture. We have observed that people would always be migrating along with the positive changes in the economy. It seems that the growth of the economy and increased mobility of the people, they are synonym to each other. More of the people move for employment reasons, and the rural to urban migration is the main migration stream. These trends are virtually unstoppable and irreversible. Therefore, instead of thinking ways of controlling the movement of people to urban areas, the government should focus upon improving the quality of life through increased provision of basic amenities in rural and urban areas. Migration needs to be facilitated through a proper development strategy and a coherent policy so that its benefits can be maximized at all levels. I hope you would have enjoyed this lecture. Bye bye.